At the top of the day, I talked about a set of brands who were the most talked about in the world and weren't acting like brands at all. This next brand that I'm going to be inviting on stage is exactly that. They're a brand who are using ethical business to go beyond business and actually help change something seriously going wrong in the world. I'm going to introduce onto the stage Sadira Furlow from Tony's Chocolate Only and Olaf van Geuren from Chuck Studios to talk chocolate, but not like the kind you're used to. Please join me in welcoming them to the stage now.
Hello. I feel like I should be modeling these in my perfect rainbow and well matched with everything. How is everyone? Good? Great. Hi, I'm Sadira Furlow. I just announced the Chief Brand Officer with Tony's Chocolate Only. And who is this wonderful gentleman to my left?
I am happy to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Olaf van Gerwent. I am founder and global creative director of Chuck Studios, and we are where food goes to get famous. So we're an agency that works on food and drink brands.
So you're in the right place, is what he is saying. How many of you are already familiar with Tony's Chocolate Only and our journey and story? Yeah, that's what I like to see. Well, I didn't see everyone's hand up, so I've got to take a little bit of time to tell you about our story. And one of the first things that we like to say is that we are an impact company that makes chocolate, not the other way around. And that may sound surprising, but let me share a little bit more with you. About 20 years ago, yes, Tony's is 20 years old this year. 20 years ago, there were 3 Dutch journalists, and they found out that their favorite chocolate was linked to child labor. And what do good journalists do? They investigate. So they investigated, created a documentary, and aired this segment on their show in the Netherlands. And you can see this gentleman here, Toon van de Koken, on the phone with one of the big chocolate companies, admitting that they were aware that there was child labor involved in the creation of chocolate. Isn't that sad? So they do the documentary, they air it, no one pays attention, which is whack, that's horrible. How could you not pay attention when you learn something like this? So he took another step. It wasn't enough to create the documentary, so he said, okay, let me see, what else can I do to create awareness? So there is this protocol, the Hark and Engels protocol, where basically Big Chocolate committed to addressing the use of child labor in the creation of chocolate. So he was aware of this, and he said, okay, well, if I go buy my favorite bar of chocolate, clearly I should be arrested because I know that's illegal. So he buys a bar of chocolate, and then he tries to get himself arrested. And the judge is like, well, if I arrest you, I've got to arrest everyone. And how can you prove that this specific bar is actually linked to child labor? So that's a second attempt. So then he tries a third time, right? This see something, say something, do something. So now he's like, okay, I can show you better than I can tell you. And so he goes about and creates Tony's Chocolate Only, showing that you can create damn tasty chocolate and do it in an ethical way. And that started the journey of our pursuit of ending exploitation in cocoa. And that's a little bit of an inside fact on our name of Chocolate Only is actually about the lonely journey to change the industry from within inside. And you can see here on the screen, this is our mission. Together we will end exploitation in cocoa. That is our North Star. That is what we have been fighting for since day one, which is why we say we are an impact company that makes chocolate and not the other way around. And so you might be asking, well, how do you go about changing an industry? How do you break the norm in that? Well, you first start by creating awareness. And hopefully you've seen us showing up as a bold challenger brand, telling everyone, telling each of you today that there is this issue. And then second is, how do you lead by example? And so we do that every day, bar by bar, bite by bite, showing that it is possible to create great chocolate and do it in the right way, right? That's where the proof is. And then last, really inspiring people to act, because you can't change a norm and do it by yourself. I mean, we're small and mighty, but it's really big chocolate that we need walking side by side. We have this saying that we talk about internally of we collaborate on cocoa and compete on chocolate, which means we have a higher order calling, like we're trying to change the industry, and if that means we've got to bring our competitors along the journey and do that together, we're absolutely willing to do that. Some of you may have even seen this yellow emblem that says Tony's Open Chain. That is our proprietary 5 sourcing principles that show that you can create chocolate in an ethical way, and it is open. So anyone who uses cocoa in their products, they have access, they can become a mission ally and source their cocoa through us. You might have seen this last year, Waitrose, which some of you may shop at, became a mission ally last year, and their chocolate bars are all sourced with Tony's Chocolonely Open Chain cocoa beans, which is pretty cool. So that's our mission, but I think we're all here. Let's get into talking about chocolate. And I say that because I've been now with Tony's about 1.5 years, and when I joined, we probably spent 99% of the time talking about our mission and creating awareness, and we're really good at that. But you know something we maybe weren't as good at is talking about the chocolate. And we had to sort of take a step back and realize, did we care how people came into the brand? So there's a bit of this purist mentality of, if we don't talk about the mission, then we're not doing it a full service. If we start talking about chocolate, we're like everyone else. But the reality is, maybe you all are like me. I love chocolate. I want to know, is it milk? Is it dark? What's inside? Is it gooey? Does it taste good? Most of us, when we're like in the chocolate aisle, we're just like, I want to treat myself, and I just want to know it tastes good. And so as a brand, we had to figure out, how are we going to talk about our chocolate? We're really good at mission, not so good at talking about it. What was going to be our unique way of visualizing the chocolate? We were really good at using, you see this red wrapper, which is fire alarm red, inspired my outfit today. And then also, if you've ever seen a bar, some of you may have them, our bars are unequally divided. So they're not perfectly organized, and that's by intention, because the chocolate industry is unequally divided. So we use our wrapper and we use the bar to tell the story that I've just shared with you. There's an issue in the industry, what we're doing about it, and when you eat our chocolate, it's a little hard to break because we're trying to break the norm in the industry. But that's not going to be enough to make you all understand how good our chocolate is. And so when you're trying to figure out your culinary identity, what's going to be our way of showing up that's memorable and iconic, you call Olaf and Chuck Studios, because we too want to be famous, not only for our mission, but also for our chocolate.
Yeah, and that is a bit when we got on board. I just introduced myself. By trade, I'm a film director. So I make images such as these ones. I design and shoot these images as a director and as a director of photography, but with the intention of making them look delicious, right? The idea is here that things look amazingly delicious. But you have no idea how many briefings I get working in this industry that are very similar. I get every one briefing out of 3 contains, can we make it look like Lurpak? Without the brand having anything to do with the bravery that Lurpak has. And then there is the problem that food products often look the same. Imagine me, I'm shooting for 5 different beer brands, and they're all asking me to shoot that beautiful beer swirl in the bottom of the glass, with the fizzy yellow. And the problem is that all the different beers basically aesthetically look the same. They're all yellow with bubbles and white foam. That leads to a place where if you're showing just product, you're going to be looking like your category and promoting your category more than your brand. Mm-hmm. And there's very dominant category traditions, which brings me back to Tony. In the chocolate industry, there's many ads being made in the world. Mm-hmm. And you know that famous image of a logo of a chocolate brand emerging from liquid chocolate? That's this. right?
It's not us. Just
That's not you guys. That's not you guys. But there's so many brands that do the exact same thing. So this here is what we call the sea of sameness. I get why we're making chocolate look like this, because it looks delicious. It looks amazing. It's velvety. It's creamy. It's almost sensual, right? So I understand the visual language, but ask any consumer and they'll be clearly confused. And we could always we could make this slide about many categories in my industry, as you can imagine. To the rescue, we thought to help solve this problem. Culinary identities is what we design, and that is like a product-focused sibling of a visual identity or a sonic identity, which we all know. Here's a bit how that works. We start with the brand. Everything, the nucleus of the whole operation is clearly brand. And then around it is mission, vision, and values. Or if you're at Unilever, it's going to be called a brand key. And if you work at Heineken, it's going to be called a brand in a bottle. And around those float identities that basically explain how we interact with consumers. So a visual identity says something about how you're seen, sonic about sound, verbal and sensory identities, and we feel that a culinary identity is in place when you're showing food or drinks. And again, bringing it back to Tony's, we talked about the category cues, right? About things that we like a lot about chocolate, and as a result, we show them a lot in advertising. We show these things all the time. We see them all the time. We discovered almost close to 30 tropes that are seen a lot in advertising. Our task together was to find out which one fits us based on what the product is and what the brand is. So we did that, and
it was very daunting. I remember when we had the presentation and looking at this, and when you're on the beginning of your identifying and defining your culinary identity, it's like, well, do we want to lean on experience? Do we want to lean on taste? Is it the product? Is it what happens on the other side after you eat it? And it was really hard to pick one. And I think your team challenged us on, you can pick a few, but you've got to start somewhere. And like the more focused you are, the better you'll be in position to do the compound creativity and really cementing that in consumers' heads. So as a brand, just picking one felt like, don't mess it up, Sadira.
I can imagine also it would be kind of scary to abandon creamy, for instance, because surely you're going to be creamy.
Because clearly the sea of sameness, there's a reason why everyone got there, and all those things are real. There's no shade on them, but I think the figuring out what is true to your brand, what can you continue to be consistent in, what can your innovation pipeline continue to deliver on, what do you know about the consumer? So it was really like a nice pull and tug on getting to, you got to take the first step somewhere versus trying to do it all and figuring out so early on and locking yourself into a box on that.
Yeah. Well, based on that, we did a lot of work and creative work, and this is where I need a bit of your help, guys, because this is clearly what Tony's looks like, right? I think there's some people on the front row who have bars, no? I'm going to have to ask you to work with me here. Are there people with bars on the front row? Yeah, you got one? Okay, so I'm going to ask you to unwrap.
Should I do it with you?
Yeah, go along. So try to do this. So you'll unwrap like a third of the bar. And as you go, what you'll discover is that suddenly it changes a bit from a beautiful product with a very specific type of paper and with a thick, chunky kind of quality into food. Now it's edible, right?
I'm making a mess over here, by the way.
That's fine.
Okay.
Chocolate is a bit messy, isn't it?
Yeah, fair.
So now, if you got this in your left hand, take your right hand and do click this one. Snap off these bottom two chunks. These chunks, my friend, they are it's basically consumer behavior. These ones you're going to eat. You see what happens? You're immediately going to eat those two.
You insist.
The reason why we do this is that this is clearly consumer behavior. We decided to take, we basically unfolded, we saw that people do this all the time. They take that bit, they eat it straight before even sharing it with your kids, right? Because they say, well, I can get that in before I share the rest. So that little bit, we've gave it a name, we've called it Neil. There's a film supposed to play here, but the film doesn't work because we're looking at a PDF. Neil, this chunk, this famous bit, is the vehicle that we're going to use to make the product of Tony's Chocolonely very famous. And we've actually brought a version for you to look at that you haven't seen before.
This is not rehearsed, so I
So Neil is the thing that we're going to show a lot when we're depicting the brand. It will make Tony's more delicious because that cracked open side, it reveals that rough texture that you feel when you taste it when you put it in your mouth, right? And it also reveals inclusions. And we've made a larger we made a larger than life mock-up of Neil, and we do that for shooting purposes.
That's so cool.
So having Neil in place as an ambassador for the brand, it does something very remarkable. We know from neuroscience that a whole bar is perceived as a product. If you break it into edible chunks or edible pieces, it becomes food suddenly. So it fires much more neurons in the brain. And it will appeal to much more people. Plus it reveals the inclusions, the texture, the chunkiness. It's really thick and it shows that. And when used enough, Neil will become a famous ambassador of the brand. It will become a distinctive brand asset, reminding consumers of the brand without being the brand name itself.
Heard it here first. We're going to be famous for our mission and this chunk known as Neil. Here first. Remember this, people.
So we have some iterations of that in the real world.
Yeah, so it's, again, I come from big company background. I've been at PepsiCo, and what I can tell you, going on journeys like this probably can take you anywhere from like 12 to 18 months, 6 months.
I can promise you sometimes it's much
even
more.
longer, right?
Yes.
Trying to get that through 6 months from the time, and I've only been at the company a year and a half, so we're moving fast. We're very agile at Tony's. So kicking things off, going through the sea of sameness, making some choices, shooting beautiful work, and getting started, and then putting it out into the wild. And so very happy. You can see here a few shots from some of our Instagrams around our global channels. The one with the blue background, that's from the US latest integrated campaign, and showing it come to life. And it's something just so refreshing to think about where you started and putting it out in the world and seeing how people respond to it. And we're just getting started. So I'm sure we're going to discover more ways that consumers fall in love with Neil, or other ways that we start stacking it and continuing to evolve the Tony's way of showing chocolate. And that makes me really happy.
Yeah. Well, and closing thoughts for this session, guys. We both are going to leave you with something to bring home.
Yeah.
The thing I want to share with you is that delicious is not enough. As a food brand or as a drinks brand, this deliciousness in and of itself is a category cue. Every one of your competitors will use deliciousness as a driver because it's such a powerful force. So I believe that chocolate should look delicious,
Yes.
but it should look like you're delicious. So you don't want delicious chocolate, you want delicious. Tony's Chocolonely chocolate, and that's what we help by.
Yep. I agree. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is the meeting people where they are. And again, you heard me say about being precious around our mission, and that can't be the only way we bring people into the brand. Most people will discover Tony's by tasting the chocolate. And so being willing to meet them where they are, but do it in a way that is distinctive to you and reflects that, and they'll keep coming back for more. And that's how you'll also be famous.
And that's a wrap.
Look at that.
Thank you, guys.
We did it. Oh.